If a building is not classified as just one occupancy, there are 4 different ways to handle that. So we'll look at the various relationships. They either are termed incidental, multiple, accessory, or mixed. So incidental occupancies would be a space within an occupancy that would be considered more hazardous. An example would be a storage space within a preschool. This type of classification requires separation from the main occupancy and additional fire protection. And then if the specified conditions are met, you then otherwise follow the main occupancy codes. An accessory occupancy is within a building. The separate occupancy is much smaller, or less than 10% of the main function. The accessory area does not follow different codes, but uses the main classification. If the area is more than that allowable percentage, it's considered independent occupancy and will follow separate requirements. An exception may be an assembly area with less than 50 people or 750 square feet. Is always considered accessory, such as a small training room within an office. Then we have mixed occupancies. If the secondary space is too large, or more than 10%, to be considered an accessory, it's treated as a mixed occupancy. It is separated by firewalls, then they can be treated individually. If they're not separated, then whichever occupancy classification has the stricter code, it's the one that's followed. And that's a general rule. If there is a question or 2 competing codes, always go with whichever one is more strict. Then we have multiple occupancies, and this is a term used by NFPA, not IBC. It's typical to have more than one occupancy per building. So here are some examples, and you can reference your textbook and just have fun with these for a few minutes, if we can use that word, and see if you can figure out what the classifications would be. So the first one is a hotel, and that would be one of your residential ratings, so you'd want to look at the residential list. And within the hotel, you have a restaurant. We know that's an assembly group, a ballroom, and a workout room. So obviously, one building is going to have multiple occupancies. So kind of pause for a minute and work through these examples, look up the occupancy classifications, and see if you can figure out what they would be. Now let's take a moment and think about how occupancy classification relates to accessibility. Each occupancy class has specific considerations for accessibility. And if you check out page 83 of your textbook, which I'll pull up for us here, you'll see that for example, assembly area, one of the things you'll need to check for accessibility would be percentage of accessible wheelchair locations, or exactly where those wheelchair spaces, companion seats, are located and how frequently they're located. So that concludes the talk on occupancy classification, and next we'll look at the actual load.